Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we've got some selections for tomorrow, and it's great. We've got the jump racing back. I think I do prefer the jump racing. The difficult part, I think I like jump racing throughout the season, early season and end of season. I think you can kind of get it. Flat racing, early season form and end of season form, I think they already start looking at future events. Whereas I don't think that happens as much in jump racing. And I think that might be why I prefer it, and you can keep going throughout the season. So we're going to look at some of the races tomorrow. We've got selections at York, Chepstow, and Newmarket. And we're starting off in the 1:15 at Newmarket, the Group 3, 1 mile, 1 furlong, Darley Stakes. And you can see who I like here. It is our top-rated horse, Lead Artist. Now, there's a few reasons for that. First of all, top rated, always a good sign when you select a horse. I go through these and I try and have a look using the ratings as well, and I think Lead Artist is, has the potential to be a lot more progressive than anything else in this race, including Ancient Rome. Obviously we only see 3 runs for Ancient Rome. The horse has actually had 21 because he's come over from France. And has been all over the place since then, even last seen running at Keeneland. But Lead Artist has only had, 5 runs. And he's done quite well in those. He debut was second at the beginning of the year, or back in April. Probably his best run, in my opinion, was actually last time out, when finishing second to Kinross over 7 furlongs. Kinross has probably proven that he is a real good specialist over 7. Then went to Longchamp, finished second in the Group 1 behind Ramachoi. I totally get finishing second to that horse as well. That drop back in trip really suited Ramachoi. I mean, Kinross is just a very, very good 7 furlong horse, and a Group 1 7 furlong horse. So for Lead Artist to finish second, you can probably say, that was a very good effort behind a Group 1 horse. Now, is there a Group 1 horse in against Lead Artist here? No, I don't think there is. These are all Group 2, Group 3, listed event horses. I don't think there's a Group 1 horse in this race. And with that in mind, I think Lead Artist can go on and win this quite comfortably, to be honest. Yes, Liberty Lane was a very good handicap winner last time out, but that was a handicap. So we can kind of say maybe the horse is listed, maybe Group 3 class. But is he Group 1 class, which I kind of feel Lead Artist will end up being. No, I don't think the horse is Group 1 class. Lead Artist has won a Group 3 and won it quite well considering the way the race was run. That was at Goodwood over a mile. Beat King's Gamble, kind of beat the right horses that day. I don't see any reason why Lead Artist doesn't take all of the beating here. And I think it's slightly bigger than I thought Lead Artist would be. I thought Lead Artist would definitely be sub 2 to 1 here. And I'm just going to load up the odds so we can see what they are right now. You can see 94 5 to 2. I think the horse will go off sub 2 to 1. I really do. Should have no issues with the ground. The good to soft ground is fine. There's obviously one on good to firm, and the second last time out on good. I don't think good to soft will really be much of a difference. It's not like it's running heavy, and that could really turn the form on its head. Personally, I kind of felt that the biggest danger on ability would have been Peaceman, but Peaceman is surely going to need the run. Hasn't run for 470 days. Granted, it was looked very, very progressive when before his injury. He's been gelded. He's come back, and I think this is will give him a run and see if he's worth hanging on to next season. That's what I think they're doing with Peaceman here. But yeah, Lead Artist, I think, is the one to beat here. And priced accordingly, but I still think that's actually too big. I think he'll go off much shorter price tomorrow. Closer to 6 to 4-ish tomorrow. Moving on to the 150 at Newmarket. The Zetland Stakes, over a mile and 2. And I like Shackleton here. Now, something that you always have to be careful of in these races towards the end of the season is it a race where they're stepping up in class for something they want to win? So if a horse had already won a couple of Group 3 races this season, and had been maybe tried in Group 1 and was dropping back to Group 3, they might just be going, look, let's just run him here. Whereas Shackleton needs to win a Group 3 en route to becoming a potentially Group 2, Group 1 horse. Similarly, as does Stars in Their Eyes, as does Dynamars. But with them not having any reason not to be trying here or not to be wanting to win this race, you then have to look at where's the best form. And I think the best form, to be honest, came from Shackleton. A decent effort over a mile behind Hill Road on debut. Didn't get the clearest of runs that day at all. Then went to Tipperary and was clearly expected to win, to beat Tennessee Stud. Again, it was a really good race, though. Even fourth place, County Mayo, has since come out and won really nicely, and actually also runs in this race. But County Mayo was fourth that day. Shackleton was comfortably the best horse, in my opinion, on that day. Just didn't get the clearest of runs again. And it kind of all went wrong at the start, was sweating badly, probably ran a really good race to finish second, and then came to the Curragh and bounced back, much better performance, had no issues, Ryan Moore on board, and won really comfortably. I think that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I do think it's going to be a nice, straightforward ride from the front, catch me if you can, and personally I think they won't catch Shackleton, who I think is the best horse in the race and the one with the most progression and the one that's going to be the best horse next season even. I wouldn't be taking on Shackleton tomorrow. So 2 selections, the first 2 races at Newmarket, they're quite boring, both of them 9-4. You can currently get 9-4 or 2-1 about Shackleton as well. But I do think they're slightly bigger than they should be as well, and I think they're going to win those 2 races. Next selection is going to be a little bit bigger. Let's have a look what price he is. It's at York in the 205. Currently get 8-1 about Valano. Now, Valano is very unexposed. Only had the 3 runs. Started off winning really comfortably at Nottingham back in October of 2023. Beat Tokyo Bay and Contacto really comfortably that day on the heavy going. So the ground shouldn't be an issue. It's soft ground tomorrow at York. Shouldn't be an issue. Then went to Kempton after 171 days off the track and finished second behind Notable Speech and in front of Persica. That was probably a very good run, wasn't it? Notable Speech is now rated 122, the winner, whilst the third is rated 112. Valano is only rated 97. Now, you could say, yeah, but that's because Valano disappointed last time out. Maybe. Valano went to Salisbury, finished third behind Military Academy. We've got to remember Military Academy went off odds on to win at Newmarket last time out in a listed race, having previously been beaten the Reverend, who is probably running about now off a decent handicap mark. And Valano, I just think it didn't quite work that day. The 160 days off the track probably meant the horse needed to run a little bit. Got to remember, still went on 4-6, was expected to win that novice event, even giving weight away to the likes of At No Time. Wasn't able to. Looked like it got outpaced. The softer ground, similar conditions, similar trip, slightly further. And I'm pretty confident that after finishing second behind Notable Speech and Persica, and even in front of the likes of Native Warrior is rated 94, well, Valvano's only rated 97, and that horse was miles behind, or comfortably behind Valvano that day. When they finished second there, I'm sure they were thinking, we've got a group horse on our hands here. They did go and geld the horse not that long afterwards, so probably then said, okay, we're not going to be able to... we're not aiming for those group races, or we don't need to. And the fact that they then got beat, I think this handicap has been a bit of a... We could find that Valvano is much, much better than these tomorrow and is not a handicapper and is a group horse. And Rafe Beckett might have something quite useful with Valvano. The step, the horse is going to appreciate further next season. I think a mile and 2 at this stage in his career is fine, but I think we could see a really top class handicapper next year in Valvano over the mile and 4, mile and 6, even up to 2 mile next year. if he's got the speed this year to keep up here, I think he will go really close. And that's the only thing, the only negative about him really. 8-1. I think if this had been over a mile and 6, he would be a 4-1 favourite. The mile and 2 is the only negative about him, but the soft heavy going might bring him a little bit closer there, and I'm quite happy to take a chance on Valano being better than these even over this trip. We then move to Chepstow for the 210, the Paul Ferguson's Jumpers to Follow handicap, and I don't think we've got any prices about this one yet, which is always disappointing when the races are declared so early. I mean, we knew these horses were running yesterday. Why haven't the bookies priced it up yet? They're all waiting for each other. Who do I like in this race, though? It's going to be Leari. And if we can get anything around 2-1 sort of price, I'll be really happy with that about Leari. Got to remember, Leari went off 9-2 last year for the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, one of the most competitive handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival, featuring a load of Irish horses, and yet the Paul Nicholls horse still went off 9-2. It didn't work. He didn't jump very well. I'm sure they've been working on his jumping since then. Comes back to Chepstow in a race where he doesn't have to take on the Irish. I don't think there's any, is there? No. Doesn't have to take on the Irish. Doesn't have to take on the horses that have been ridiculously well handicapped. Leari should win this. I mean, Leari's even dropped down to 131 from 134 at Cheltenham. If we can get anything around the 2-1 mark, I'll be very happy about that. And I think Leari will take all of the beating here for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. So we'll keep an eye on the prices for that one. But I thought we'd talk about it now. Moving on to the 225 at Newmarket, and I just want to talk about this one. I'm not having a selection in this race. I think Delacroix has the best form. Charlie Appleby's won this for the last 5 years, and actually in the last 10 I think it is, or maybe even longer than that, Aidan O'Brien's not won it. And he's had 14 attempts at it. This is a real concern for that race, and that's why I'm leaving this race well alone. I think the best form is Delacroix. But do they actually try for this race? Is it a race that they send any of their decent horses to? Maybe not. But yeah, I don't think Silver Peak's as good as Delacroix, so it'd be counterintuitive to be backing one or the other. One's got the trainer record and one's got the form. So that's why I'm leaving the 225, the Autumn Stakes, alone. Moving on to the 240 at York, we do have a selection in this, the Coral Sprint Trophy, and that horse is Strike Red, who is available at, let's have a look, York 240. So I do look at these prices beforehand. The reason I then load them up live is so that you can see what they are now. There's no point me talking about this here, for example, recording a video with the odds from 3 hours ago, because they've probably changed since then. But who do I like here? Well, it's Strike Red. Strike Red actually caught my eye 3 runs ago now, when finishing second to El Monged at York, beating Comanche Falls, beating Two Tribes, when I don't think things quite went to plan for Strike Red that day. And yet he was beaten by the very unexposed, the massively improving El Monged. And I kind of put it down as one that I'm interested in next time out. He then went to the Curragh for a similar race, the Bold Lad Sprint, and things just went against him. He was over that far side, which meant he wasn't able to get involved. That really affected him, I think, and that was just a disappointing run, but it wasn't his running. And I think off his handicap mark, if they ran it again and he was in the right place, he would go very close. He then went to Ayr for the Ayr Gold Cup, and I actually think he ran another really good race. He was over the far side. Now, if you actually go through the results of that race, I'll do it now, looking at the positions of those horses that were around him or that beat him. The winner, near side, centre, near side, centre, centre, far side, centre, near side, centre, far side. So he was actually second over that far side. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it was just poorly drawn. If he'd been drawn down the near side, alongside, the likes of Lethal Levi and Corker and others that came down this near side group, I think he would have gone a lot closer. was a little bit keen that day. I don't think this is as competitive, to be honest, as an Air Gold Cup either. It probably isn't going to be. What's this race worth? This is race 51 for the winner. The Air Gold Cup is worth 92. You'd probably not quite send your best horses for this race as you would for the Air Gold Cup. He's drawn 9 tomorrow, which means he can pick which way he goes. I think Billy Garrity can choose which way he goes. And we've got to remember, he also won this race last year, 2 years ago, sorry. He won it, beating Hyperfocus, off a mark of 92. He's only rated 93, he's only a pound higher. So he's won here, he's finished second to the unexposed El Monge. They're his last 2 runs at the track, off 92 and 93. He runs off 93, I mean, that's enough to give the horse a massive chance, to be honest. Priced accordingly, but 8 to 1, an 8 to 1 winner is not to be sniffed at, and I think he will go really close tomorrow. We then head off to Chepstow, back over the jumps for the Silver Trophy Handicap Hurdle, and there are a few in this race that I'm definitely watching with the future in mind, including the likes of Tritonic. I don't think wants this trip. Affadil, not sure wants this trip, so I can't select him. Doyen Quest, I think they'll probably target returning to Cheltenham for something, and this will be a fitness run. Krabilly is actually my horses to follow, but I want him over fences, and I wonder whether they're looking after him for the plate already. So we've got to remember he ran in the plate, finished second, didn't jump very well at all that day. They then stepped him up to 3 mile 1 for a handicap, didn't stay. He's dropping back in trip, but he's going over hurdles. Yes, his hurdles mark is a little bit better. He's only rated 138 compared to 143 over fences, but I think this will be getting him fit. May well be for the 2.5 mile handicap chases at Cheltenham. So there's a couple here that I think are probably going to need the run or not going to be fully tuned up. The horse who I think doesn't need to do that is Gypcot or Gypco. When this horse came over from France, came over with quite a big reputation. I think it was favourite for the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle for a long time, and they ended up running in the Triumph. Went off 50 to 1, disappointed, finished 11th, probably should have gone for the Boodles. After that, you're like, okay, got well beat off in the Grade 1, surely they've got to end up in another a handicap next time. Nope, they stuck to their guns, they ran in another Grade 1, again disappointing, finished last of 11. That was off a mark of 124. Okay, the handicap marks are kind of irrelevant, but you can demonstrate that the horse came over rated 127, so, you know, they thought the horse was quite nice. After a wind surgery and after a break, came back the following season in October of 2023, went over fences, disappointed on his first run, finished 7th, then fell against Psycho in probably a decent race at Ascot. Then went to Wetherby, again, a little bit disappointing, finishing 3rd, went off the 2 to 1 favourite that day, off a mark of 118. You know, it wasn't working over fences. Dropped back to hurdles. What did they do over hurdles? So they went to Huntingdon, very comfortable winner off 117, beating Bluegrass by 5 lengths, but won it really cosily. Probably demonstrating, actually, the horse is quite well ahead of its mark. And then went to Sandown for the Imperial Cup. Now, ran off 127, finished 3rd, but I think got beat by 2 horses that were just incredibly well handicapped. Go Dante and Favois. Now, Go Dante obviously went to Aintree, finished 5th in a subsequent handicap at Aintree, having previously finished 3rd in the Betfair Hurdle. Went to Aintree, finished 5th, but lost all that ground at the start, didn't he, Go Dante? Probably would have won it, and would have won it quite comfortably if he had jumped off on terms. The second horse, Favois, was running for Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton. Go and look at their horses that they've tried to run in the bonus races, so the Imperial Cup and the Kelso Moor Battle Hurdle. They've had Favois in both. They've had Lankadan run in the Imperial Cup. They've had Lo de Sud run in the Moor Battle. All horses that have actually done really well at Cheltenham, all won their races, the qualifying races, i.e. the Imperial Cup or the Moor Battle Hurdle. Dan Skelton really targets those 2 races So for Favour to finish second was not a surprise. He finished second to Go Dante. Favour then went on to finish 6th in the county hurdle himself. Good run. So Jipco actually finishing third, or Jipcot finishing third, I don't think that was a bad run at all. And I think with so many question marks about some of the others, like being aimed at different races, I don't think Jipco is. I think Jipco is going to come here, try and win this. They then might go back over fences, or they then might go, actually, we've got a horse over hurdles to stick with. Let's have a look at his price. I really like Jipco tomorrow, to be honest, and he's currently opened at 9s and 8.5. I imagine we're going to get about that, so we'll keep an eye out for more odds. Obviously, we can't say that they're their odds. Only 2 bookies have gone up. But I would be very disappointed if we don't get a huge run from Jipco tomorrow in what I think is a race that he's going to be targeted at. I think Krabilly isn't. I think Dorian Quest isn't. I think some of the others aren't, or they're just testing to see how good they are, whereas I think Jipco is going to be fully wound up for tomorrow. We then go back to Newmarket for the Cesarewitch, and there's a horse that I've been kind of waiting for or looking out for this race all season. It's a previous winner of the race, Run for Oscar. Now, Run for Oscar won this race a few years ago really comfortably off a mark of 90. Now, he does have to run off 103. Probably would have gone close of 103 a few years ago because he was so comfortable beating Vino Victrix and Not So Sleepy and Zoffi in a race that actually was probably a good effort as well. Zoffi's since won a Chester Cup. Not So Sleepy obviously won recently on his final start at Newbury, winning the Autumn Cup, and he'd done well since then anyway. Finished 7th in a subsequent Cesarewitch as well. Run for Oscar this season looks like they've been waiting for it. Having returned to the flat against Kyprios, they then went to the Curragh over 1.5 miles in a listed race. That's not far enough. Probably his only race that he really got almost to the right conditions. He was second to Uxmal, who was just ridiculously well back that day, and I think they knew that Uxmal was probably better than listed class. We've got to remember, Uxmal had previously finished second at Al Nayir. Now, Al Nayir obviously then went to, has since gone to Newmarket, won a listed race comfortably, had finished second to Vauban in a Group 2, had finished second to Tower of London in a Group 2, second to Siskany in a listed race. I mean, that's all really good form. So Uxmal being beaten by that horse, that was a really good effort. Uxmal's clearly better than Conditions race. He could have probably been running in the Gold Cup. And Run for Oscar finishing second, I thought they rode it with, we don't want to win this race. We'll just sit out the back and run on and pick up a bit of prize money because we're going to run into a group horse. Dropped back into listed class, finished 5th of a 6th, not far enough. Then finished second in a Galway race over 1.6 miles, not far enough. And has since been over hurdles. 2 good runs, beat McGilloney and Tullybeg over hurdles in a very good performance, and then finished second last time out to Tagman over 3 miles. Again, I don't think that was a bad run at all. Back on the flat, Ross Orion obviously is in really good form at the moment. I think the horse is going to go really close tomorrow to winning again. Obviously, Ross Orion did step up to win the Arc recently on blue stocking. So Ross is in, good form. Run for Oscars in good form. I don't see any negatives about the horse. The weight is the only the kind of negative, but if you're good enough to win, if you're good enough, you can win carrying that weight. Currently available at 14s. I think that's a fair price about Run for Oscar. He's going to be weighted out the back and come through late, hopefully. I think he'll go really well again. For Charles Burns. 2 to go. Both of these are now over fences. 4 o'clock race over fences. We know who we like here. It's one of my horses to follow. It's the King of Ryhope. Why do I like the King of Ryhope? Well, a couple of reasons. Has won at the track. Beat Can You Call by 3/4 of a length last season in a handicap chase. I thought he won it quite comfortably that day. He would need to have won it quite comfortably because he was running off 129. He runs off 136 here. Then stepped up into better quality races including a grade 2 at Wetherby and a grade 2 at Ascot, and I thought he was being ridden with a handicap in mind. If he'd got a clear run at Ascot, I actually think he might have won that race. I have a feeling that the Skeltons had no intention of winning at Ascot, though. He then went to Aintree, got really well backed for a handicap, jumped atrociously, went off 7-2 favourite for a race, a handicap, similar class of handicap, probably even weaker than this in my opinion, stronger than this in my opinion. Didn't jump great, comes back here off a £1 lower mark, and the owner has actually come out and said that he's hoping the horse can win a grade 1 this year. If he's going to win a grade 1, he's got to win tomorrow, and even with not being 100% wound up, I don't think it'll be 100% wound up, but I think some of the others won't be. Il Rodotto, I don't think will be. Phlegmatic, Garlaw, Editor de Gite, they could all be looking at that 2.5 mile at Cheltenham in a few weeks' time. Whereas the King of Ryhope probably isn't looking at that. I think they'll be wanting to win this and then end up in graded races. Harry and Dan Skelton, I mean, there's no negatives for me about that horse. I really like him, and I think he's going to take all of the beating tomorrow. Thanks. Let me just pause my video whilst I get these back. As you can see, there's no current prices about this race. I'm hoping that the King of Ryhope's last time out effort is taken into account too much, and people, he's opened at a bit of a better price than what he should be. If he's anything around the 4-1 mark, I mean, if he's not favourite, that would be a massive bonus. I think he'll end up favourite. I think he'll end up going off about 5-2. So if we can get any bigger than that, I'll be very hopeful of a huge run from the King of Ryhope. And moving on to the final race that we're going to talk about, it is the Native River Handicap Chase. And there's so many in this race that I have question marks about, including the selection we've gone for. Pulled up last time out, has had wind surgery, and that certainly catches my eye. And also his previous efforts, like at the track. So he did actually run here back in March of 2023. That is Sail Away. And he finished second to J'Etoile, beating In Excelsis Dio, beating Parliament Hill. So first of all, he beat In Excelsis Dio, and he beat him quite comfortably. Nothing wrong with that. Second to J'Etoile, who was running that day off a mark of 130... I've just got to find it. 132. He then went to Chepstow again and won by 9 lengths. Then he went to Aintree in October and won the Old Roan Chase of 146. So he's now rated 147. £15 higher. What's Sail Away rated? Well, he was rated 136. He's running off 140. Harry takes 7 off, which means he's effectively running off 133. I think Sail Away will be coming here trying to win the race. I mean, some of his efforts last year, they weren't bad. 6th at Doncaster in a Bet 365 handicap chase, off 144. Remember, he runs off 140. 4th behind Annual Victus in the Great Yorkshire Chase, off 142. Even 5th behind Can Do Kid. That wasn't a bad effort on his return. He's had wind surgery again. There's clearly something stopping him. And even then, I think they believe he's well handicapped, or somebody does, because his last couple of runs, he's gone off 4-1 favourite for a feature handicap at Cheltenham in April. And then he went off 100-30 next time out at Aintree in a decent handicap chase. I think we're going to get a decent price about him tomorrow. And if the wind surgery's done the trick, and all of the others that I've found question marks in don't run to their ability or don't run to their best, I think the likes of Kitty's Light Needs Further, Ballet Griffin Cottage, I have a feeling isn't being aimed at this race. I think there's other races he might be being aimed at. Similarly, Twin Jets, Neon Moon is probably high enough handicapped on his, even on his best form. I think Sail Away can go really close here. And I'm hoping we can get a decent price about him. There are no prices currently. Whoops, wrong race. You can see there are no current prices at the moment. But if we can get anything about 6s or bigger, I'll be really happy about that, because I think that would be a fair price on... He is nicely handicapped. The wind surgery could do a massive difference. And I think so many of the others aren't in this race to win it. They're just in it to get fitness for future events. So yeah, Sail Away is my final selection of the day. So a quick recap. I like Lead Artist in the 115 at Newmarket. I think we'll be trying to win the race, the Group 3. Second last time out, behind a better horse than what he's taking on here. Should take all of the beating. Shackleton needs to win this and then progress next season. I thought he's clearly very highly regarded. Ryan Moore is happy to ride here. And the last time out effort was a much better effort than the time before. The only concern would be if he does start sweating again. 205 Valano, I think his run 2 runs ago was better than handicap company. It was group class company. Last time out, things didn't quite go to plan after a long break. Has only had the 29 days this time. I think will be a very good handicapper next year. I'm hoping he can also win over this trip tomorrow. Next season we'll definitely get a mile and 4 mile and 6, maybe even 2 mile. Leari at Chepstow, £3 lower than when going off 92 for a Boodles. This isn't a Boodles. This isn't anywhere near as competitive. This, for me, is a race for them to win and then end up in better races than this. 240, Strike Red, back at York, in a race that I think will really suit him. Well, it does really suit him. He's won it before. He finished second on his other starts, a recent start to El Monged, the very well handicapped El Monged. And the last 2 runs you can kind of give excuses for. Gypco, or Gypcot, I think is well handicapped, but sticks to hurdles. Don't worry about his chase form. That was disappointing. His hurdles form, they clearly highly regard him because he'd been running in graded races. They sent him to grade 1 events. They have since moved him from Ben Pauling to John Joe O'Neill, probably going, we've got a nice handicapped horse here, go and do something with him. 340, Run for Oscar to reclaim the Cesarewitch prize. I think this is what they've been waiting for all season, and then they'll have a good campaign over hurdles. The King of Ryhope needs to win tomorrow, in my opinion, if he's going to be winning a Grade 1 event at any time. So well back last time. Clearly something wasn't right. I think a lot of these will not be giving it all their all tomorrow, including Editor Djit, Garlaw, Il Ridotto, because they've got Cheltenham in mind. And finally, the 435, Sail Away, Wind Surgery again. They clearly think a lot of him. Harry takes a useful 7 off. Harry Atkins takes a useful 7 off. And I think he's one of only a few here that will actually be trying to win the race, whereas some of the others will be also looking ahead to the future.